a rename. If you don't mind, adjust your name with your name and your affiliation. It kind of helps us see who's all in the room. It's not required, of course, but it helps us out if you do that. So it is after the hour, so I'm going to go ahead and start. Looks like we have 14 folks here in the room, including Mason, myself, and Benjamin and Briana. So I will get us started. So welcome everyone. Thanks for joining our Alliance meeting today. And I do see some familiar folks in here, so that's great. This format's meant to be an information or an informative program for folks relative to wildland fire safety and risk reduction. So that's our focus here, and the mission of Fire Safe Sonoma is to provide education and outreach with regard to wildland fire safety. So that's fundamentally what we talk about here. And then at our last Alliance meeting, we had Carleon Safford here talking about the SoCo Adapts program, and that's on our YouTube channel. If you want to go see what that was about, if you missed it, I believe it's available on our YouTube channel. Mason, would you drop the YouTube link in our chat if you don't mind? Cool, thanks. All right, so today we have with us Benjamin Goldstein and Briana Boaz of the Santa Rosa Junior College, and they're going to be talking about the Santa Rosa Junior College's Wildfire Resilience Program. And the Junior College's Wildfire Resilience Program, it combines rigorous college coursework as well as community workshops. That's all combined with hands-on training in a variety of wildfire resilient practices, including prescribed grazing, forest fuel reduction, defensible space, and post-fire mitigation and restoration. And Benjamin, he's the Dean of Agricultural and Natural Resources, Culinary Arts, and Industrial Trade Technologies at the Santa Rosa Junior College. And Briana, she's the Natural Resources Professor and Program Coordinator at the Santa Rosa Junior College. Briana, I have to ask, are you related to Jason Boaz from Healdsburg at all?
I get this question all the time, and I don't know. I've been meaning to just cold email him and see if he's a long-lost relative, but I don't know.
Okay, I was wondering, I was curious.
Yeah, because it's not a very common last name, so he might be a long-lost cousin.
Oh, who knows? You might have to go to ancestry.com and figure it out. All right, so with that, I'm going to pass it on to the two of you. You guys can share your screen and do your presentation, or however you guys want to do it. I'm just going to go dark and hand it off to you guys. So let's see where we go.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Roberta, and it's good to see everybody again. I did attend the Fire Safe Sonoma meeting last month, and the Permit Sonoma presentation was super informative. So Brianna and I are very excited to share with you an update on the SRJC Wildfire Resilience Program. So I'm going to start with a high-level overview of the SRJC Ag and Natural Resources Department, Schoen Farm, and then the broad contours of the Wildfire Resilience Program, and then pass it off to Briana to go deep on the Natural Resources Program specifically. So as Roberta mentioned, I'm the Dean over the Ag and Natural Resources Department, Culinary Arts, and Industrial and Trade Technologies. I've got the SRJC welding hat on today. So food, wine, and machines, there is a connection there. And a little over, well, let me not jump the gun. So you're seeing my screen right now. Schoen Farm is the learning laboratory for the Ag and Natural Resources Department. It's in the Russian River Valley off Trenton-Healdsburg Road. Depending on which side of the street you're on, you're either in Forestville or Healdsburg on Google Maps. So, and it's been part of the Santa Rosa Junior College system since 1972. So we're actually celebrating our 50th year at Schoen Farm this year. You see the stats there. We've got 120 acres of secondary forest. Brianna will talk a lot about that. 96 acres of commercial vineyards. We sell those grapes to commercial wineries, Sonoma-Cutrer, Coppola, And that helps fund a large portion of the farming operations. We've got pasture, riparian areas, orchards, gardens, and then roads and buildings and perimeter tree cover. What do we do at Schoen Farm? Well, we do a lot of things. We have our classes and field-based labs there. We do internship and work experience for students, paid. Student enterprise projects allow students to pick a commodity and kind of see it, grow it, or raise it, or bring it to market, and receive a portion of the proceeds from that commodity. We do a bunch of community events, Russian River Rotary Crab Feed, Elsie Allen. I mean, we host just a ton of events at the farm because we have a big meeting space there. And then coming this fall, the Ag and Natural Resources Department with faculty and staff offices are moving from the Santa Rosa campus to Schoen Farm to really kind of double down on our on the farm as our learning laboratory and our primary campus. This is just a gorgeous overhead shot. We've got a drone photographer on staff, and he flies drones and takes pictures throughout the year. What you're seeing is primarily the sustainable agriculture unit at Schoen. So that is the orchards, row crops. You see we have solar there. The large red building in the far right, back right corner is the agricultural pavilion. That's where we have some huge classrooms and event space. And then greenhouse and a produce processing facility to wash, pack, and store all of our fresh produce, fruits and vegetables. This is just another map of the farm where you can see all the different activities and areas from the commercial vineyards. You see we've got a horticulture greenhouse coming online, so we'll have 2 full greenhouses. We've got a no-till kind of regenerative agriculture area. We've got a vineyard for student learning that has a ton of different grapevine varietals. We've got the farm office and then the new classroom complex. And then of course the forest, which is not fully outlined, but you see it there in the upper right, and Briana will talk a lot more about that. So what we did about a year ago was kind of step back as an institution and realize that we need to step up and contribute to the future of wildfire resilience in this county as a workforce development institution. The ag department has evolved from the 70s when we focused on, growing hay and apples, to viticulture in the 80s. We introduced a hemp agriculture, cannabis agriculture program 2 years ago. And so wildfire resilience has become kind of a new focus area for us. And rather than developing a new program from scratch, which takes a lot of time and a lot of resources, the approach we took was to take 3 existing programs, animal science, natural resources, and environmental horticulture, and develop an emphasis within those programs on wildfire resilience, with the acknowledgement that you cannot study animal science in this county without knowing about prescribed grazing, because that is just one of the main purposes that folks are ranching for these days. Same with natural resources. There's a parks and recreation component, there's agritourism, there's restoration, but wildfire resilience is an area where there are a ton of new jobs and where there's a lack of workforce development. And same with environmental horticulture. There's drought tolerant, ecological landscaping, and fire resilient landscaping are all focuses within that program. So we offer certificates and associate's degrees. A certificate is essentially without the GE units and general ed, that is, so English, math, social science, and our associate's degrees include the major and general education for transfer. I want to emphasize quickly here that we as a junior college are only able to kind of go so deep in expertise because we're talking 1 to 2 year programs Oftentimes our students are part-time because they're working. And so we see our job and our mission as introducing students to wildfire resilience, preliminary topics, knowledge, skills, and abilities, and some vocational skills, which Briana is going to talk a lot about. And then being able to send them into the workplace where they're going to go and develop a lot more experience and expertise with their employer. Or they may transfer to Humboldt State or Chico State or Fresno State. So, we are by no means the experts in the scientific or the work or the experts in wildfire resilience in Sonoma County, but we see our job as bringing some expertise to bear in our programs and working with partners, many of which are on this call, to bring some of that expertise to our programs. So just a couple fun photos. We've got some of our students learning about prescribed grazing there. We've got environmental horticulture. Again, this is fire resilient landscaping. The emphasis is landscape design and landscape construction and maintenance within this program. And then there's a new program that we are developing, which Roberta and Mason were so kind to send out to this listserv last week. It is a fire resilient landscaping and workers' rights and safety. It is going to be offered within our adult education department, which is non-credit, but can be offered in a bilingual format. So it's about job skills, not about transferable credits. And our focus is the existing landscaping workforce, which is primarily Latino in Sonoma County. So we're actively recruiting right now for faculty expertise. And so if anybody's interested, please contact myself. Again, Fire Safe Sonoma sent out the 2 flyers, one in English, one in Spanish last week, advertising for faculty expertise in this area. So we're really excited. We feel like this is a program that we can really target and capture the incumbent landscaper workforce, ton of expertise, and folks already out there on the front lines doing defensible space and structure hardening work at people's homes and ranches and commercial buildings around Sonoma County. So it's kind of an upskilling program with an emphasis on fire resilient landscaping. So that's my part. I'm going to hand it over to Briana, and I am going to be her technical assistance provider here and continue to advance the slides.
Wonderful. Thank you, Benjamin. I'm still Briana Boaz, and I'm still the natural resources professor. So it's great to be here talking with you guys about our wildfire resilience program. I'm going to be talking about the natural resources side of it. And here is a photo of one of our intern cohorts from the fall semester. And of all of our student employees, it really takes a village to raise an intern. So we are relying on a lot of our partners to aid in this training effort. In particular, Laguna de Santa Rosa Foundation, Asa Voigt and Annie Madden in particular, are our experts that are supervising our forest interns. And they're in turn partnering with Fire Forward, getting their Burn Boss certification. So they are using the 120-acre Schoen Farm forest for their Burn Boss certification, which has been a really great partnership. And it's helped a lot of our students out as well. Next slide, Benjamin. So WRP, the Wildfire Resilience Program, for the natural resources side, we are in our 3rd cohort of students. They're paid student employees. They're earning college credits. Right now, we have them working every Friday during the semester in the summer. And we started off in summer of 2021 with 6, where we started prepping the forest for a prescribed burn that we're hoping to do in winter of 2022. So we started with 6, and now we're up to 17. And the program has grown in popularity so much that we actually started a second internship under the umbrella of WORP. One crew is out in the forest. We're training them how to safely use, operate, and maintain chainsaws and other hand tools. And then we have a restoration component where we're doing post-fire restoration, as well as restoring some of our degraded pastures and other lands out at Schoen Farm. The reason we're doing this is because if you look at the recent wildfire maps, here are the colored ones from the early 2000s, and then historical are in gray. Schoen Farm out here in West County has not burned in a very long time. These are fire-adapted ecosystems, and as we've seen countless times, fire suppression has not led to happy ecosystems or happy communities living next to these ecosystems. So we're partnering with Laguna Foundation, Point Blue Conservation Science, and Fire Forward to train our students in these important skills for pre and post-fire vegetation management so they can go out and get a job in this field, because this is work that desperately needs to be done. And our interns have come out with a lot of transferable skills, and many of them have already started getting employment in the county, which is wonderful. That we've got 2 interns now working with Pepperwood doing scientific fire-related monitoring. We have 2 students that got into KDF forestry, making $35 an hour with full benefits in a company truck to go do utility line vegetation management. And we also have a student who's working for Marshall Tuberville doing his fuel reduction crew. So we've only just begun, but already our students are becoming really successful. Next slide, Benjamin. This is specifically about our burn unit that we're prepping. We're taking 31 acres out of the full 120 for our first section of forest that we're managing and preparing for a prescribed burn later this year. This is the most accessible part of the forest, so we're conquering the low-hanging fruit first. And our main goal is workforce development, that we're training these interns, we're giving them these skills, we're giving them all of these networking opportunities, that we have a revolving door of guest speakers that come through and meet with our interns, including regional parks and RCDs. And we're training them in wildfire hazard mitigation, fuel reduction techniques, and ecological land management. And I've got tons of pretty pictures for you guys. We've got a couple of different forest ecosystems at Schoen that are all really representative of forests in Sonoma County. We've got oak woodlands, we have kind of secondary bay laurel dominated forests. We've actually got some Manzanita groves, which we didn't know existed before we started doing this work, because up until 2021, not a lot of work had been done in the forest to date in terms of management. And so far what we've been doing is in this first unit here, that here's Schoen Farm, and that pretty picture that Benjamin showed earlier. Out here is the forest. We are adjacent to Gallo Winery, and then the Russian River and Riverfront Regional Park are down here, and they're our other neighbor. So we've been doing some pretty extensive shaded fuel breaks along our boundary with Gallo Winery, 30 to 40 feet out. And then along these 2 ridges, this is Ridge 1, which we knew existed. And then Ridge 0 is one that we didn't know existed until we started doing this work, because that's how dense it was. We couldn't even walk through it. And we've been doing hand lines and check lines, in some cases scraping down to bare mineral soil to make sure we've got all of those safety guards in place before we put fire back in the ecosystem. And we've been doing tons of burn piles. We've been doing some broadcast burns, some jackpot burns, and we're also starting some biochar, which is pretty exciting. So this is a picture from when we first started. This is our property line with Gallo Winery, and it was so dense we couldn't even walk through it. So we spent a significant portion of the summer just trying to find where the fence was. And as you can see, poison oak galore. Next slide. Here, this is a little bit later in the summer, we can actually see the fence, which is great. So we're starting to make a shaded fuel break in this area. Here's our interns using chainsaws, brush cutters, and other hand tools. Next slide. And look at how happy they are to do it. It's been really rewarding seeing them grow comfortable and confident with their chainsaw use, and it's a really transferable skill we found. Next slide. And here we are fast forwarding to the same boundary that we've got our 30 to 40 foot shaded fuel break, and we've started reintroducing fire into this ecosystem to further clean out the really extensive fuel layer that had built up and litter layer. Next slide. This is along the ridge we didn't know existed, hence Ridge 0. In the summer, it was just a powder keg of fuel that we started reducing. Next slide. After an entire summer's worth of work, this is the ridge line in the fall where we were producing 3x3 or 4x4 foot burn piles to reduce the fuel. Next slide. That we then scientifically lit on fire. Here we've also got Brooke Edwards came by that day to visit, now at the, not Jenner Headlands, regional parks now. So it was a really dense area that we started to open up. Next slide. And the students have been overjoyed at lighting things on fire, we found. Drip torches, burn piles galore. This student is now working at KDF, and this student, Ben, he's working part-time at the Laguna de Santa Rosa Foundation. So that's been great that they've both gone on to continue doing this work in the field. Next slide. This is a Manzanita Grove that we also didn't realize was there. The students have named various parts of our forest. This one, they've called it Manzanita Mountain. And in the summer, it was a really dense thicket with a lot of standing dead manzanitas in it, which is a major fuel risk. Next slide. Here in the fall, we did a significant amount of limbing, thinning, and pruning of manzanitas. This is definitely an ecosystem that we want to conserve and we want to restore. We are leaving some thickets because it is great for wildlife, like deer like to hide in it, and some birds like to utilize it. So we're not thinning all of it. We are leaving some intact, trying to do wildlife-friendly fuel reduction. Next slide. And here, we started burning it, which has been wonderful, bringing fire back to this very fire-dependent species. So we made a lot of burn piles, and we started burning them in the fall when the burn window opened. Next. And here it looks today. It is a very happy place to be, Manzanita Mountain. Next slide. Here we have our other ridge. This is the opposite of Gallo boundary of our wildfire. And this area of our forest is the Bay Laurel and Douglas fir dominated kind of secondary forest. It was probably cut about 70 years ago, and it has also not been thinned since it was cut. And the fuel is pretty extensive, both surface fuels and ladder fuels. So we needed to do a significant amount of work before we could reintroduce fire here. So from summer to fall, we made some headway, and then next. Now that we've thinned it, we've done burn piles, we've actually opened up the canopy for the first time. So the understory has just boomed, and it's been so satisfying to see all of the wildflowers coming back that were just kind of hanging out in the seed bank, desperately waiting for some sunlight. And we've also got student monitoring. So we've been doing photo monitoring, and now we're doing transect and quadrat monitoring with our students so we can get that glorious pre-burn data, and to also see how our different vegetation management techniques are changing the plant community. So we're looking at both herbaceous cover, like this beautiful fritillaria and hound's tongue, and of course a ton of poison oak. as well as looking at fuel data and tree canopy data. So we're collecting all layers of the plant community for pre and post fire. Next slide. We're also starting to work on oak woodland restoration that historically our reference ecosystem is kind of a black oak dominated ecosystem, that we've got a lot of ridges, and we do have some black oaks that are kind of getting shaded out by a canopy of bay laurels. And there's also a non-native pine plantation that was planted at Shone 50 to 70 years ago. So we're removing those non-native pines and we're encouraging oak regeneration, both by opening up the canopy and reintroducing fire. And you can see another pyromaniac that we've produced with this internship program. And next, future management. Burn piles. The only thing coming back in our burn piles is, unsurprisingly, French broom, an invasive species that's a major management concern. So our restoration crew, where we're partnering with a restoration ecologist from Point Blue, this is where we're going to bring back native bunch grasses that we're going to start producing at greenhouses at Shone Farm. And we're going to be collecting the seeds on the property, growing them in the greenhouses, and then planting them when and if it rains again in these burn piles, so we can give native species a chance to outcompete the French broom. We're also hoping to partner with the animal science program and get goats out in the forest, which I'm very excited about. You can train goats to not only eat French broom, but also poison oak. Even though poison oak is native, it doesn't make me happy, it doesn't make a lot of people happy. So we're trying to thin that out to encourage other herbaceous species to grow. And historically, we partnered with chasing goats and brought some goats and sheep out to Shone before, and we're hoping to do that again. We're also aiming to do more with biochar, that we've got kilns, we've got a lot of woody material that we're generating, and air pollution is a concern. So we're hoping to make biochar, which is a really stable form of carbon, put it in the forest, as well as out in the pasture and the compost fields and the other parts of Shone Farm. So we can have a kind of in-house carbon sequestration component to our wildfire resilience program. And that is it. Any questions are welcome and appreciated. Thank you for listening.
Okay, great. Thank you, guys. There are some questions in the chat, and we have quite a bit of time. So, folks, if you want to ask some questions, I don't think we're going to run out of time. So, it's funny because I was going to ask you guys, Briana, about what you do with the byproducts of your work. You guys can stop share if you want. And, I was going to ask if you did chipping, biochar, or composting. It sounds like you're going to probably start doing some biochar, but do you guys do any chipping and or composting as well with some of the byproduct, or right now you're just burning?
Right now we're doing all of the above. So we've been chipping and composting and using that as part of our pasture restoration, that we've got quite a few head cuts in the pasture from just not the best management practices over time. So we're filling in some of that with chips that we're generating from the forest, as well as biochar that we're going to have a big biochar demo out at Shone about 2 weeks ago, but it wasn't a burn day from the wind, but we're hoping to reschedule that. And I can also send out an announcement to Fire Safe Sonoma. We are partnering with Raymond Balthar at Sonoma Ecology Center. So we're hoping to really ramp up our biochar production later in April, when the burn window starts to close and we're looking for other forest management practices to do.
Oh, perfect. Perfect. Yeah, let us know. We'll definitely share it out.
Yeah, it's going to be like a giant campfire.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll bring marshmallows.
One of the questions in the chat I found pretty cool and interesting. The question basically was, are you going to run out of material for the number of students you have? And I'm
nope.
Okay, you don't think so?
No, we started with the low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
The other 90 acres of the forest are less accessible. So we need to increase our accessibility for that, of expanding trails so we can get ATVs and RTVs out there to get the equipment. And other parts of the forest are even more densely overpacked than what we've begun with. And other than those extra 90 acres that we've yet to touch, we'll have to go back and maintain and monitor our first burn unit as well. It's never just a one and done. So we'll be coming back and reintroducing fire repeatedly, invasive species removal and restoration. So I hope this lasts me for forever.
What's your class size like? And what's the, oh wait, actually, before I ask my question, Ellie has a question from Sonoma Ecology Center. Thanks for joining
Hi,
us.
Ellie.
Oh, hey, Briana. So yeah, we've talked and in fact, the three of us, Roberta and you and I and Brock at Occidental Arts and Ecology Center, to expand this into helping, with landowner training. And we've got the funds to do that. And then we also applied for funds to create a best management principles and practices handbook and do workshops with you and your students and Pepperwood and Occidental Arts and Ecology Center and others. So I'm really excited to see this presentation because you're just doing this incredible work, like really bringing together all of the aspects of it with, the biochar and the habitat and the workforce training and, great jobs, well paid, or at least training them to be. So I just wanted to mention that, well, because this is like the first time I've actually seen you and spoken, and I wanted the rest of the, community to hear this, that this is really part of a process that we're going to bring to everyone and take the things that you've learned and put them into a format for everyone to be able to do it themselves. And to answer the question before, there's a lot more work for, students to be doing. And as you teach these students, creating a workforce, I mean, there's just so much going on and it's really, really, really exciting. We're still kind of in the beginning parts of it, but I don't know if I have anything really coherent to say. I'm just expressing my enthusiasm for what you're doing.
And I love that. Thank you, Ellie. And we definitely need to touch base about monitoring that. I'm hoping over the summer to ramp up our monitoring even more. Right now, I've got 2 independent study students doing the bulk of the monitoring, but I would love to touch base with you to integrate our data into best management practices.
Yeah, well, and that monitoring is so important for us to be including in the practices so that people will be doing it, and then we'll be gathering information from all over the county as, we train landowners, because I think that's part of your whole training process. You're talking about your students right now, but you have a mandate to teach landowners, and you can be teaching them much of what you're teaching your students. I'm assuming.
Exactly. Yeah, because most of our students don't own property in Sonoma County, and most of our forests are privately owned. So that's an aspect that I really want to launch, of having those landowner workshops so they can get trained in some of the basics as well.
Yeah, good. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Ellie.
Thanks for that question, Ellie. A question came through the chat that's pretty interesting. The question is from Wendy, and she asks, did you do any pre-work plant surveys for sensitive populations or rare plants? She follows that question up with, hopefully pre-treatment planning for environmental compliance and CEQA compliance for vegetation management protocols are being taught, assuming as part of your program. If not, how and by whom? So
so over the summer with our partners at the Laguna de Santa Rosa Foundation, we monitored and mapped out the first burn unit, looking for any sensitive species, threatened, endangered, or otherwise, and didn't locate any. Our baseline data before we started doing any kind of management in the forest was just a lot of bay laurel and Douglas fir and poison oak. Now that we're doing monitoring, even after doing some of the management, so far no sensitive species have popped up. We do have species we didn't see before, But we're always on the lookout for new species and integrating any kind of conservation and management concerns into making sure those populations are conserved and maintained. Yeah, very good point.
Yeah, and then another question came up by Will. It looks like he probably had to leave, but I'm going to try to synthesize his question and maybe learn more from you guys. So it sounds like his question is asking, what are the limitations of the work you guys are doing, and can it be made to be consistent with the county or even local community wildfire protection plans, or even the utility companies, wildfire mitigation plans that they deploy in and around the electric infrastructure. So I guess the fundamental question there to unpack all that, Briana, is beyond the scope of Schoen Farm, is this program deployable in other areas to help meet the needs of other things like PG&E's plan and the CWPP's plural throughout the county?
Yeah, that's a really good point too, that we have a long-term goal of forming externships, that instead of doing all of this work and training in-house at Schoen Farm, to partner with all of our collaborators in the county and have paid student internships working with other groups, nonprofits, county, state, what have you, so we can expand not only student training and skill set, but also how much acreage is actually getting managed for fuel reduction in Sonoma. So that's a longer term plan of ours that we're hoping to start in the next year or two.
Nice. With that said, or to piggyback on that, how scalable is the work you're doing? For example, if I'm a property owner with 20 acres out in West County, if I go and take your class, I imagine I'll learn skills I can deploy on my own property. But what would be the smallest and largest property size that you all would be able to work with? Or can you even work with a private property owner with 20 acres? Or would I have to take the class and do that myself?
Yeah, we're not, Roberta, we're not at the stage yet of sending crews out into, and there are some limitations around doing work on private property. And I would say, there's other partners in the county that are doing landowner focused workshops. We entertained that initially, but just felt like it wasn't in our wheelhouse, and that we'd be happy to host. I believe Briana's been working with the Forest Working Group, and we've offered Schoen as a hosting facility for those landowner focused workshops. We don't typically see a private landowner enrolling in kind of a full year-long certificate program, just because they probably got their own full-time job to do. So I think the targeted weekend landowner focused workshops where we can simply host, but let the Forest Working Group or Fire Safe Sonoma or one of the partners lead that would be a really nice arrangement.
That would be fantastic. We'd be happy to partner with you guys or something like that, or partner with you guys and the Forest Working Group, whatever we can do to work together to make it happen. That would be awesome.
Roberta, that's kind of what we're doing with the West County. So you're already partnered.
Well, yeah, but I mean, to the degree that they're doing it with the burning and everything else is
right.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, well, thanks, Sally, for reminding me of that. Let's see. Someone else asked, John Carnegie of Sonoma Ecology Center asked, are there opportunities to study wildlife pre-post management work? Or do you guys do that already?
Yes, please. This is something that is currently lacking. We have anecdotal data, which isn't much of a data set, about how we've had just an explosion of wildlife returning to the forest since we've started managing it.
Awesome.
But we don't have any actual observational data about it. When we're burning, we leave the wood rat nests alone, even though some people treat them like nature's burn pile, like a jackpot burn, but we leave those alone. We maintain some snags in the forest, and we've got a couple of thickets of manzanita left over, but we don't have anyone currently looking at wildlife before and after these activities. But that's something I want to start over the summer, because that's the next logical step, that we're spending a lot of time focusing on plants, and now leveling up in the food web is something I'm hoping to start in the summer.
Plants and animals.
Plants
Love
and
it.
animals, yeah. Yeah, I would also love a birder to come out to Shone and
Oh,
teach
yeah.
me about the birds out there.
You probably reach out to Pepperwood and find some folks there that has
Yeah, birds are tough. They move. I like plants. They never move when you're trying to identify them.
yeah. So what's your typical class size like? How many people do you have? And what's the ratio of, instructors or instructor aides to your students?
Yeah, for the natural resources classes I teach, like environmental conservation and forest management and plant ID, the class size is typically about 20 to 25 students.
Oh, good.
And it's just me as the instructor. We've got some wonderful associate professors as well, like Brooke Edwards and Megan Walla-Murphy, who's teaching the wildlife class with us. And then our internship, it's under a work experience class. And currently we've got 17 interns working with us. And then over the summer, we're hoping to have a similar sized cohort as well.
Oh, very good. That's a good class size,
Yeah, I know. I get to learn all their names. It's not 200 people. It's great.
Very cool. Very cool. Let's see. Oh, you mentioned earlier something about bunch grasses versus broom. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? I'm asking quite selfishly because I've got a small little parcel and I'm always fighting with that broom. And if there's something I can bring in to keep it out, I mean, that's nicer and, native, I'd rather do that.
Yeah, French broom is probably the most, well, not probably, definitely the most common invasive species we have out in the forest. And the seed bank is really long lasting, that one French broom plant can produce hundreds of seeds that can last in the seed bank for decades. And when you burn it, the first thing that comes back is a big flush of French broom, which can be a little daunting, but French broom typically takes about 3 years before it starts flowering and producing more seeds. So you've got this kind of 3-year window after burning or managing to hit it before it sets out more seeds. And we're removing the seedlings as they're coming up, and we're planting Elymus glaucus, which is, what's the common name? Common names. Blanking on it.
Ellie, can you help out?
Yeah.
Blue wild rye.
Thank you. Okay, I only remember the scientific name.
I knew Ellie would.
Yes, the blue wild rye, which is a great native, really hardy, drought tolerant, wildfire adapted bunch grass that grows at Shone. So we've been collecting a lot of the seeds to propagate and then sticking the grass plugs in. And it's been really successful that just a couple of those grass plugs haven't even watered them and they've totally taken off. And in the piles that we put grass plugs versus left alone, the French broom cover is a lot less when we've got the blue wild rye planted in there. They're able to grow fast and outcompete the French broom.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Wow, I don't see any more hands up, and I don't see any more comments in the chat. Mason, am I missing anything in the chat that we haven't covered? Did I miss any questions?
No, you're not missing any questions, but I guess I did want to highlight some of the, just the great comments that poured in.
Yes, please.
Yeah. Karen Passafaro mentioned, thanks, Benjamin, Briana. This is a fantastic program, and we so need more people in the county with these skills. Well done. And then also she was replying to the point of making like, oh, will there be a shortage of work at some point? Like, is there more to do? I think there's an endless supply of property in Sonoma County that needs this work. So there should be no shortage there. And then Wendy mentioned, what a great program. This could be a real inspiring program for other areas and colleges in California. It's inspiring to hear about a program that incorporates the ecological goals as well as fire prevention goals. Reading that, I guess, had a question. Do you know of any similar programs that other colleges that maybe in California have done?
Yeah, so College of the Sequoias has more of a heavy equipment operator focus. Fresno City College, College of the Siskiyou. So they've had more of like a logging, heavy equipment, forestry focus. I am not familiar with any other college that has developed more of a wildfire resilience focused program. I think we really are the first. And I would like to, my goal is to work with other community colleges to help spread the gospel. Because obviously fire is an issue up and down the state. There's probably no community college district that's immune. So, our goal is get this program launched, get some escape velocity and some momentum going, and then talk to other colleges around the state, and see if we can help, So
Okay.
Sorry, Roberta, I just wanted to, before we wrap up, I wanted to make a final plug for folks. So like Briana talked about some of our existing partnerships, Sonoma Ecology Center, Point Blue, Laguna de Santa Rosa Foundation. If anybody on this call is interested, contact Briana and I, and we'd be happy to set up a meeting and kind of explore possibilities. And then do help promote the opportunity for the Fire Resilient Landscaping Program, because that that program hasn't been developed yet. So there's an opportunity to get in kind of on the ground and roll up your sleeves. And it's part-time work, it's flexible hours. So it's compatible with folks that have a full-time job.
Yeah. Now, Benjamin, when you get a second, could you put your contact in the chat? It looks like Briana already did. And Scott, is this something you guys might be interested in doing up in Mendocino County, you think?
So what we've done, and potentially for sure, there's certainly a huge need for it. The closest thing we've got is, we have a crew that we work with from the Hopland Band of Pomo Indians, and there's some turnover there. So we've been dealing with how to try to keep them trained. And what we came up with was a video series. So we just put up a video series on our website that has the kind of mega condensed and much poorer version of what you guys are doing there. It's got the sort of basic chainsaw video. It's got the how to operate a chipper safely video. It's got a long format video with a botanist and a couple of foresters talking about how to think about approaching this kind of work in a way that's ecologically sensitive. And then we've got a kind of a native perspective. But if there was some way to get that crew through, some version of what's happening at the JC, that would be awesome. I don't know how to make that happen.
Yeah. With that said, and Ellie, I promise I'll get to you in just a second. I want to follow on this thread. Are you guys considering, or have you considered like a train the trainer program where you could train folks to take what you're teaching into other areas?
Not personally, but Benjamin has. Okay.
Well, no, I mean, that would be part of a model on how to spread the program statewide. The great thing is we can share resources because, a student in the San Diego Community College District is not going to maybe they would come all the way up here, but more likely take classes in their home district. So yeah, I'm still really focused with Briana on just getting our own program up, running, and solid before trying to spread ourselves too thin, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of untapped partnerships, I think, still locally, like employers. We're still reaching out. Recruitment, so Sonoma County Regional Parks, Conservation Corps North Bay. what's Chase's organization in Windsor?
Chasing goats?
No, I'm sorry, Che.
Oh, circuit rider.
Circuit Rider Community Services. So like we're trying to bring more young people into this space and then give them a pathway to a career.
Yeah. Okay. And Ellie, sorry to keep you waiting. You had a question. You had your hand up for a very long time.
Oh, no, it's not a big deal. One thing I wanted to actually ask Benjamin is, have you been in touch with the folks at Hanford? They're trying to develop a workforce training, Hanford ARC. They do a lot of ecological restoration. I know they're really interested in this area.
I have not, and that's the first I've heard of them. So
okay.
Let me look them up.
Well, I can send you a contact, because this is definitely the kind of conversation that they'd be interested in, and I'm kind of surprises me that there's been no connection yet. But I'll connect you. The other thing I wanted to mention for your benefit, Roberta, is that red fescue is a they call it a rhizomatous plant. It grows by underground runners, and it can spread really quickly and can be kind of I wanted to see what you think of it though, Briana, red fescue as a grass alternative.
Yeah, we've got some California fescue that we've done seed collection and propagation for. We don't have red fescue growing on the property, and we haven't really branched out to other seed collection areas yet. But as we're ramping up our restoration program and internship, I'm hoping that we can do broader seed collection of more species. But festucas in general are phenomenal bunch grasses that grow really well. You can just plant them and forget about them. They're still there.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. The lazy restoration. It's great.
Ellie, I saw that in the chat and I copied it and pasted it into a document, so I'll have it for reference later. So thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, check in with me about it because I know somebody who's got it and loved it.
Okay, cool. Very cool. Very cool. All right. Let's see what else is in there. One question I saw, I like this question. When you guys do your training on the tools, hand tools and equipment, do you also train on how to clean the equipment when folks are finished so you don't spread like and things like that?
Yep, definitely.
We go through a lot of isopropyl alcohol.
Oh, wow.
We buy it by the gallon.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Good to know. Yeah, that's a very good question, Wendy. Okay, well, we're approaching 3 o'clock. I'm not sure. Oftentimes what we do in the latter portion of this program is we do breakout rooms with folks. And I have to get over to the fairgrounds to set up for the home show this weekend. Fire Safe Sonoma, we're tabling there this weekend, very last minute. We got an opportunity to get in over there indoors. But with that said, if folks want to hang around and do like breakout rooms, we can do that. So why don't you guys, if you want to do that like we've done in the past, let me just see a show of hands or thumbs up either way of folks that want to do some breakout rooms and just kind of chat. And if not, then we'll just kind of wrap this up. So I don't see a lot of hands up. I don't see any hands up. So maybe we'll skip the breakout room element, which works for me, like I say, because I would love to get over there and get set up. So, wow, you guys, thanks much. Oh, so, appreciate the information. This is good stuff, exciting. And we'll have to have you guys back at a later date to kind of keep us posted and let us know how the program's evolving. It would be total cool to see it grow into other communities, other counties. That would be cool. And then also to do those those weekends for property owners, that would be very cool too. And like Ellie says, we're already doing that a little bit. So, all right. Well, thank you all. I don't see a huge chunk of folks wanting to hang out. Things being what they are, we're all very busy. Yeah. Real quick one. So is this the same program that you guys mentioned earlier where people can actually get paid to be in the classroom?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought. You
Yep.
did.
Yep. And now we're doing it. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, you guys. Well, thank you for all your work, and special thank you for bringing the information here to us today.
Yeah.
And
Thanks for letting us show you pretty pictures.
yeah, and then if you want it, I believe this is already available on our YouTube channel. And Mason put that in the chat earlier, I think. Mason, you want to drop that in the chat again, the link to the YouTube, if you don't mind, if you have it. Perfect. Before we sign off, give you a couple minutes to do that. And then, yeah. Any last questions from anybody? All right. Let's see. Let me let Mason get that in there. There it is. Right. Okay. Well.
Yeah. This
Yep.
was our. I just want to say this was our first try at it, so hopefully
Yeah.
it makes things easier posting on the YouTube channel, the video, and for next month we'll advertise that as an option for those to be able to live stream from YouTube as well.
Perfect. Yeah. We'll definitely promote it on the social media that we're going to be live streaming officially next month. So, and then next month, who do we have next month? Oh, the radio guys. Mason, do you want to tell everyone about next month's presentation in the last couple of minutes? Because you're setting it up. You know more about the details than I do.
Yeah, we'll be having a presentation from Bob Dozer. And he will be talking about, he will give a presentation on radios for emergencies in wildland fire situations. And he said he's been given this sort of presentation on GMRS radios. And so he'll probably have some version of that to show us next month.
Perfect. Yeah. So yeah, the idea is to give people information on how to start using the GMRS band. Basically, it's kind of like a citizens band radio, but you don't have to go through as much licensing and testing, I guess. And then I think if it feels to me like too, what he's doing is trying to structure it so it's not a Wild West show out there when people use that radio, that particular radio. And so it's I don't know. It seems a little complicated to me, but it's probably simpler than I think it is. So can't wait to see his presentation and learn more. So, all right. With that, I'm gonna let you guys go. Thanks again for the presentation, and thanks to all you guys for participating. Appreciate it. All right. Take care, you guys. Bye bye.